But anyway, I shouldn't tell you all these things.
We're not going to tell anybody.
You're not telling us, you're telling the camera.
Oh. Anyway. I was born in Fletcher in the doctor's office. There's no hospital there. Harlan had already grown up. He had already born in little what did he born up in? Anyway, he was born. Of my brother, the best brother in the world. He had a deal where he would have pull jokes on everybody. Get people in trouble. Yeah, he was a good guy. Sharp, Democrat. But he was a good guy.
When did Marilyn come along? Where were y'all?
4 years after me.
Yeah, but where were you living?
Well, the main thing about her, she was a concert pianist. She took piano, and she was one that could sit down up on the stage up there and play for 2 hours. Concert. Yeah, I know, she was very good. And that's the reason she's all these years made a living by giving piano lessons.
I just kind of wanted to know a little bit more about your grandmother and your grandfather, because I vaguely remember you talking about them. And did she smoke a pipe? Am I?
No, they both chewed tobacco.
Oh, okay.
They would sit in front of the fire and rocking, and this is the picture, one of the pictures I remember. And they would spit their tobacco and then lay it aside, and a little bit to come out and they spit some more. Well, he was a crop renter. He would go and find somebody that's got some land there, and he would rent it, grow a crop, sell it, and pay off the rent. And that's how he made it. He was a crop renter. And beside that, they had 8 kids.
Two.
They had 8 kids.
Your dad's
7 boys and 1 girl, and the girl was May Axton. I didn't see them very much. They were Church of Christ. And when my dad married my mother and turned into a Methodist, his mother was a Methodist, they disowned us.
I didn't know.
There were about 4 of the brothers that didn't let that bother them, but there were several that would. There was one of the Boren boys started a Church of Christ school here I guess it would be Hearst or Euless over there. How I feel about it?
Yeah.
Do what they wanted to do. But as a result, I had no closeness to a lot of my cousins. Vincent was an exception. But he was in the Weems Inn. He wasn't in the Boren Inn. David's dad, the one that's president of OU. His dad never let it bother him between he and my dad. There's about 3 or 4 of them that were still, had no problem with it. Oh, they were cousins of mine.
Okay.
Jody, who was a art teacher in the college at Abilene, and that's one of those paintings in my office is one of his originals. And then the other one that was James, he was one of the original cowboy artists. There was about 6 or 7 of them that organized and were cowboy artists. And that one is in my office as a print, and Bart gave it to me for Christmas one day, one year. And then they were very good people, good folks. John Albert Hamilton was my granddad. He was very soft-spoken, he would not, he would laugh, and he would let me do what I wanted to in his shoe shop, and he was just a great guy. I never knew my real grandmother, because she died a week before I was born. But he remarried Mother Maggie, and that's all I ever knew is Grandmother Maggie, and I don't know any more about her. Do not know any more about her. I would go over there. I went one time and stayed a week. He had a little dog in the backyard, my granddad did. He had that building, the front of the building you showed is, the one part of it was the jewelry shop, the other part was the shoe shop. Mm-hmm. And they lived in behind it and in the back of it. And I got to play with the shop, use his grinder and everything when I was a kid. And he had this little dog. And I went to bed, Mother wanted me to get to know him, so she let me go for a week with him. And you can't remember much about that, but I had a BB gun. This big old dog started to jump on that little dog of my granddad's, and I shot the wick out of him with my BB gun. And he was happy that I was there. That's all I remember. I shot it and that big dog ran. Let that little dog alone. Then after we were there, I don't know how long we were there, we moved to Bradley. My dad changed into a preacher into education, and he became the superintendent of schools of Bradley, Oklahoma. It's a little old cross place in the road. That's where I first really remember in my life. We were there for about 3 years, and then when we left Bradley, we moved to Cement, Oklahoma. He was superintendent of schools there.
I wanted to know, do you have any favorite memories of your mom or your dad?
She was a lady.
She was a lady.
Tell me.
She knew how to run a household. Dad liked to play poker. She found out about that and he quit. He says, yeah, you got time, you can drive me over to so-and-so town. I want to look at this lease. I said, sure, I'll drive him. And doggone it, he would end up in Enid, Oklahoma, where he had a cousin. He wasn't going over there to look for oil, look at an oil property or anything. He went over there to go with his cousin, and they would get in the backseat of the car and play poker. That's what they did. Oh, sure, I was sitting there in the front of the car. And,
You didn't play poker with them?
no.
One of the
they're too
things
good.
I remember about Murr and Granddad was when Debbie was getting married, we were having the reception at home. And I was there to help Joyce. She had broken a toe. I think it was Debbie, it might have been Kay. She had a broken toe anyway. Couldn't wear her pink shoes. And so I was there with a list of what to do. And you were there, because you had a list called WTs. And I remember Mrs. Boren and Mr. Boren showed up, and she was elegant looking, and Mr. Boren, first thing he said is, son, get a card table up. We need to be playing dominoes.
That's Dad. That was Dad.
Other thing I remember about Granddaddy is he never shaved real clean. So when I'd come in, he'd go, give me some sugar.
Yeah.
And he'd go, give me some sugar, Lori. And then he'd want me to kiss his face, and he was all scratchy.
Give me some shit.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a creepy way of saying
I remember that. I remember he called it sugar.
He wanted a kiss on his cheek. Amber doesn't like that.
Harlan and I, we had a bed in this little bedroom in that house right on the highway. And there was
you lived there?
a big highway that we drove right in front of our house, and it was always going boom, 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 boom. You know, you hear all the noise from that road in front of our house. That's where Dad parked his car. But that's also up in the corner there. I was wondering what was going on. There were the birds and things were flying around up in there. So I got a step ladder and I reached up in there and reached inside that corner of the garage. Well, it was a snake. It was a nest of snakes.
High up?
Yeah, here's the house, and it was in the corner up here in the front of the house, of the barn. And I reached up in there, and I felt it. And it came crawling out. It was a snake. And
Did it attack you?
I didn't ever. Well, no, no. I was down out of that ladder before you could say kaboot. This is a picture of a precious little boy. And like I say, it's haunted me all my life. What happened? My mother, this is when we lived in Cement, Oklahoma. She got me all dressed up in that junky stuff and took the picture. Then she and Dad had to go on a trip, business trip, and they went to somewhere. And during that time, they're supposed to have developed this. And she got home, and she's afraid that she couldn't find they had ruined the pictures. Well, this is the results.
Do you like it? Is it
Hate
your favorite?
I hate it. Look at that little precious thing. I don't even like to look at it now. I tell you, the more of that is that's the way I looked when my brother would take me to the movie house. And then this is where that nose job. And he would take me to see the movies. We'd pay a dime to see the Westerns. And that's where, but he always hated that picture too, because it made him the laugh of the crowd. Here comes Harlan with his little old baby boy. You know, you can just imagine. We were in this theater, and I was watching this movie and got excited. And I had my ball cap with me, and I was getting excited. The thing on the top of my cap came off. It went into my nose, so I pulled Harlan's arm and I said, "Hey, I got some iron in my nose." We had to go home, didn't get to see the movie. Poured in the rest of it. Took me to the doctor, and you know what he did? He shut this hand and said, "Now blow." Boom, it came out. That's all it took.
Was Uncle Harlan mad?
1936.
Yeah, he wasn't happy about it. He wasn't happy about it. We were going to run away, and you left the back of that house you had the picture of in Cement, and you ran across this open field, and then you had to climb through a barbed wire fence to get to the creek. And that was how we were going to get away. We were going to run away, but we got to the wire. I cut my leg. It's still a scar right here. And I cut my leg, and I said, "Harlan, I'm bleeding." So that ended that runaway. We went back home. I don't know why we were running.
That's what I was going to ask.
I don't know.
Remember.
It's his idea. We had a goat. I could not drink milk. And this was at Cement. I couldn't drink milk because it would make me, it had a reaction to my body. So they bought a goat. I drank goat milk. Good deal.
He didn't
I
have a
remember
name.
leading him around with a rope. That's where I first started going to school, first grade. And I've always used, funny, I always used, sometimes you need to have a code name or if you, for cars, for licenses and so forth. I always used the name Vought, V-O-U-G-H-T. Vought was the name of my first grade teacher. I don't know why that stuck.
I also have a picture of a church here.
I was going to Bible school there, like we have now. And I wasn't doing what the teachers wanted me to do. I was loud. They sent me home. And it embarrassed my mother.
How old were you?
Boy, I tell you what, I never did that again. We moved in from Seaman, Oklahoma to Mangum, Oklahoma, which is a little bigger town. But we lived right next to the water tower. That's when I first remembered that I joined the Boy Scouts. And then we were picking up trash, old trash, and taking it, and we were making money for our troop so that we could have money for our troop. The thing about Mangum I remember is that they had the big rodeo for the whole city, and all the people would dress up in cowboys' hats and stuff, My dad was embarrassed to do it, but he had to do it. He was superintendent of schools. He had to be doing that. I was in about the second grade. We moved in to Weatherford, Oklahoma. And I just did another bad thing. Had the governor of Oklahoma came in, Governor Phillips, I believe was his name. And I was just a kid, But what I did do, we were in Mangum. He wanted my dad to move to Weatherford, Oklahoma, to be the president of Southwestern State School, which was they had state schools. And this Governor Phillips had come to our house to try to talk Dad into moving from Mangum to Weatherford and to take over the presidency of that college. I came hosing in there, and there was this governor. Who's governor? I don't know who the governor was. Mother called me, Gene, we want you to meet somebody. I walked in there, and she raised her hand like this, and I did this to my mother, and it made her so mad. But anyway, that's just a thing that stuck in my mind that I shouldn't have done.
How old were you?
But I was about, I guess about 11, 12. We had a president's home, and I had shown it to you girls when we made that tour.
Yeah.
And the Midwestern, we had the president's home was furnished by the college. And then when we left Weatherford, when we were there, I was in about the third grade, I think. Well, that's when the war started.
Oh, really? World War II?
Yeah. And that is again when I got involved in the Boy Scouts, and we would go out into the brooks and brush and stuff and get metal. We needed ammunition, and our armies did. And that was something that the Boy Scouts took up on at that time. and our troop would go out and pick up this old deal. I had learned to make model airplanes, and I had little airplanes modeled of all the five pilot planes that we had in the Army and Navy. I had them hanging from the ceiling. So I was aware of the war going on, but the first time I heard about it was that Sunday morning. We heard real early, extra, read all about it, just like you see on TV sometimes. And the Oklahoma Times had shipped a bunch of papers down to Weatherford. That notice that's the way we learned about the war, about what Japan had done and bombed Pearl Harbor. Mm-hmm. And we moved. Dad accepted and moved to Wichita Falls. Mm-hmm. And now we're out of Oklahoma and into Texas. And that's where we stayed there for 13 years while he was president of Midwestern State University. Well, actually, when we moved there, it was a Harlan Junior College, but he then hustled and got the board to go to Harlan College, 4-year school. And then later on, during the 13 years we were there, he got it changed and increased up to Midwestern State, made it part of the state schools, which helped the local school, like from a Harlan Junior College to a full-scale state school. I was in grade school and junior high school, and that's where I learned how to write. I couldn't write until then. We had a school that my class consisted of 2 rows of third, 2 rows of fourth, 2 rows of fifth in one room. The teacher had to battle around to get the education. He would talk to this 2 rows for a while, then he would give us an assignment, and then the other ones. So we were there I was during that 3 years there in that classroom. We just sort of graduated up each year. We had a man teacher. Another friend of mine played hooky. There was a barn not far from the school that had a loft up in it, and we'd have to go up there and throw us the hay and all that stuff, and we got caught. He caught us. And that's the first time I'd ever had a whipping in front of the class with a wooden paddle. And that was not very funny. We got home, I got an even harder spanking from my dad. I didn't do that anymore. Well, that was out of Zindowitz. That's junior high.
Yeah.
What'd you do?
As you can see, it's about a 2 or 3 story building.
Yeah.
And I had finished my work, and I had some trash in class, and I rolled it up, and it was very hot. We didn't have air conditioning, and the window was open, and I just threw that thing out the window. Second floor up, I believe. Teacher caught me again. I had to go down and get that, but I didn't get a whipping. I just got a chewing out, and I had to stay and stay after school. And she made me stay there for probably an hour. Mm-hmm. Then I said, see, I could go home.
You're a scoundrel.
Yeah, well, probably the one I spent most time as a guy named Jimmy Stacks. He turned out to be an engineer. He helped build the road between Henrietta and Wichita Falls after he got his degree. We used to steal peaches. There was a peach tree down there by his house, and we'd go down and we'd eat us some peaches.
You got in trouble in junior high, but you didn't get in trouble in high school. That's what I'm hearing.
No, I learned how to dodge it.
Is there anything you did where you didn't get caught?
No, I'm not going to talk about it. Nell, come to help me.
Are they snooping?
But we were there during the war years. And Harlan went into the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
He was 18, barely 18.
So you were like 14?
He volunteered. Well, I tell you, we kept track of him by mail. And
Was Murr
had a cousin.
nervous?
We had a cousin that also, Vincent Weems. Vincent went into the Navy, and he was killed in a ship battle. And one of the Japanese airplanes crashed into his ship and killed, sunk the ship, and a lot of people died in that. But he and my brother were just like brothers. They were very close. But during that early years in Wichita Falls, I remember we had a lot of veterans from the war. So the war had just ended at that point, and they were coming in as veterans and getting education. They had veteran education school participation, and Dad was involved in doing that for Hardin Junior College. Well, I was fixing to go to high school, so I was 6th, 7th grade, I guess. That's where I met Hulen Cook. Hulen and I, we had junior high football teams because there was two junior highs in that, and we'd play each other football. That's where I first got involved in sports. So he and I were playing football, and then but he stopped playing, and I continued playing football and basketball. I played basketball, I played football, and I made all district in basketball. And I played basketball at Midwestern. I did not play football.
Didn't you tell me that?
No, I was started to major in geology in college.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell the right rocks from what the wrong rocks were for. I changed to accounting. Well, Dad was in the oil business, and I was going to try to do that and get in so I could help him.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't work out. That's Paul Shoppe.
Do you know how old you are now?
He became a real good friend of mine when we were in Midwestern. He was from Vernon, and he and his wife, later on his wife, mm-hmm. Lillian, we traveled some with them. But that comes later after I married Joyce.
They called her Lil, right?
Huh?
She was called Lil.
Mm-hmm. Paul's wife?
His wife was called Lil.
Lillian.
But Joyce called her Lil.
Yeah, I probably did. I don't know. Well, I called her Lil. That's what I called her. And anyway. What'd she say?
That's what she was trying to tell you.
Anyway, I didn't date. I didn't know anything about women.
You were very shy.
Let's say, why not?
Yeah, well, I was. I did. We went to a dance. They were having some dance where you had to dress up like crazy. You know, Little Abner or something like that.
It was a Sadie Hawkins Day dance.
Yeah, Sadie Hawkins, what it was. Hulen and his girlfriend, Betty Cook. So Hulen says, Betty's got this girlfriend. And we were all, Joyce and I graduated from high school and everything. I didn't know her. In the same class, but I didn't know her. And so he said, Betty's got this girlfriend. Why don't you let us set you up a double date? He said that she's the one that works in the office of this college there, in this office. Oh yeah, I remember. I know who she is now. Okay, okay. And that's how Joyce and I started. And we dated. One morning, and we were fixing to graduate out of college. One morning I asked Joyce, I said, is it okay if I go talk to your mother about you marrying me? She said, oh yeah, she says. I got in the car, zipped down there, saw Miss Stowe standing out there. Oh, no. She was the boss of that place. Miss Stowe was a great old lady. Her and Mr. Stowe was a house painter. Mm-hmm. And he was all painting houses and everything, and she ran that household, so I knew who to ask. And I went in there, and I said, I just wanted to ask you a question, if it'd be all right with you if I could marry your daughter. Her mouth dropped off. And I don't know how it happened. We got married.
Oh.
You ought to see my mother. I told her what I'd done, and she says, well, I guess that's okay, Gene. A funny thing happened to me. We got married in the First Methodist Church there, and we walked down the aisle, and I was down there waiting, and I was looking at Joyce coming down, and I looked around, and here's where the preacher stood, and here's where we were standing, and laying on the ground, laying on the floor, right here in front of the preacher, was this lady recording it. And we still got the recording. I think I've got the recordings. We were living in Richardson. We moved and they transferred me to Lubbock. And that's where we met this family. They were neighbors of ours in Lubbock.
Uh-huh.
And then this is a nice lady. Talk about you, Nell.
We'll start with marriage and children next time. So you can prep for that.
Next time.
Just exhausted immediately.